G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Breakevens, brought to you by Blue Wealth Property. They make investing in property easy for you. And of course, brought to you by Bloke in a Bar. Go out and get yourself a drop this weekend. Best beer in the country. Timmy, welcome back, mate. What's doing?
Good to be back, mate. Just fired up for grand final week. Not that too many of my head-to-heads are too relevant in that regard, but we'll get to scores last week very shortly, but holy crap, there were some big ones around, so you needed something special to get through to the grand finals.
Yeah, I feel like we both did pretty well score-wise, but fuck, you got to work hard to make some ground now. It's getting tough. Every
big dog pretty well went big last week, so you're sitting there going, I've got 5 or 6 players who turned up in my side, green arrows for sure, but at state, you might need 8 or 9 of them. Like, it was an incredible week.
Crazy. I scored 1,538. My rank's 180, so I went up about 50 spots. How did you go?
Yeah, so 1493. Normally you'd be thinking plenty of green arrows there. I went up 20 spots to 933rd. So, so just been a pretty steady around that area. I dropped a bit the last month or so. Hasn't been terrific, but at the same time, thereabouts. So at risk of missing out on the KFC socks and the $30 KFC voucher. So that's the only concern at the moment.
Is the Wim Tilliams free fall over now? Have you found the parachute, or are we still nervous? I'm nervous for you. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from not owning Latrell Mitchell, I still haven't been able to put my finger on exactly what's gone wrong. So I like to think that the free fall down to 930th is over, but we'll see. And I mean, thank Christ Joey Manu's got a 3-round average of 52, because if he'd kept going on the way he was and was averaging 120 over that period, I'd be about 30,000th.
Yeah, that would make it tough. So speaking of Latrell Mitchell, I have absolutely loved everything that he has done the last 6 weeks. It's one of my favourite narratives in rugby league right now, but at the same time, fuck, I hate it. He is just killing me week in, week out. And I remember 4 weeks ago thinking, it's too late. I can't bite the bullet now. I've just got to let it go. And mate, even this week, I'm still thinking, should I just bring him in?
I'll tell you what's killing me with Latrell, and I'm the same. It's been so enjoyable to watch from a footy perspective, as a non-owning Supercoach perspective. He's been phenomenal, but he does these unreal plays where he busts the line and beats 4 and scores and that once, twice a game, whatever. And normally that'd equate to because his output isn't enormous, he's all about efficiency with his runs, that'd be like a score of 75, and you'd be like, no worries. But because the Bunnies are just lighting up and their back line is back to what it was this time sort of last year, he's just getting the softest tip on tries that, like, Cam Murray, Cody Walker doing all the work on the inside, and he's just sweeping out the back, catch pass, and he gets like 30 points for it. They're the ones that are really hurting, but it's not going to stop. So
and it's fucked up as well, because, like, yes, he'll do it on the scoring play, but he'll do it earlier in the set as well. Yeah, he'll just get a little sneaky line break assists, and yeah, it's hard to watch. Love what he's doing.
Just score on the first line break so you don't get to double up 2 tackles later.
Absolute nightmare. Yeah, Latrell has been very costly for both of us. Matty, he's getting ready for the next show. We might throw to Matty when we get some South news coming in. A couple of changes there. The group. Now, next week, someone takes home $2,000 dues. So a big week coming up. At the moment, we've got Michael leading. He is ranked 4th overall. In second, we've got the Bearded Clams, Alex, who is ranked 8th overall, and Glenn the Dark Knights ranked 9th overall. So we've got 3 of the top 10 in our group at the moment, which is great to see. And then Jacob, who's been leading from the front for a very, very long time. He's dropped to 4th overall, 4th in our group, 12th overall. And then Jeff, Mind at Large, 26th overall, 5th in our group. So couple of guys that can still take home this league. There really isn't much difference between them. There's about 30 points between first in our comp, which is Michael, and Glenn.
88 down to Jacob as well. So that could go
still within grasp, yeah.
Shout out to team coming 11th. The coach is Jake. Team is Jared is fat.
Yeah, it's a stinger. Bad day to be Jared. Unlucky, my friend. But $2,000 courtesy of Beers and Breakevens that will be going to someone next week. Very, very exciting. I was going to bring a suitcase in with a heap of money, and then I realised that $2,000 in a suitcase isn't too much unless I get it in fivers.
Yeah, the old dodgeball one. Have you ever seen $10,000? It's really not that impressive.
But yeah, $2,000 coming for someone next week. Stay tuned for that. Michael, Alex, Glenn. Reach out to us on social media. this week, so we can catch up and have a chat about some of your strats, see what's going on. Team list this week, Thursday. We've got the Broncos taking on the Eels at 7:50. Only real change to the Broncos. Branko Lee comes in for Deloise Hoyter. For Parramatta, nothing really doing. Is there anything you want to touch on this game before we move past it?
Not really. They're the only one I suppose would be Maddo played off the bench last week, that late switcheroo. Again, nothing I'd probably be too concerned about as an owner, but I mean, one to consider, is he a sit v start this week? He played, he had 58 minutes last week, so still decent, and we know Maddo can do some damage in 60 minutes of game time, but yeah.
And if you get the same Brisbane Broncos as we got last week, I'd be playing Maddo for sure. All right, Friday, 6 p.m, we've got the Penrith Panthers taking on the New Zealand Warriors. Should be a very interesting one here. Jerome Luai returns for the Penrith Panthers, which, whilst we're not looking at Jerome Luai for Supercoach-wise, huge for Isaac Tungo, Viliami Kikau, and, of course, Taylor May. Massive for these three. I'll shoot it out of the cannon. If you've got Panthers, do you play them this week?
Absolutely, and this is the game that, with head-to-head grand finals on this week, it's the game I'd be targeting overall-wise and just Supercoach in general. As an owner of Viliami Kikau, Taylor May, very patient there. To see Luai back, very happy about it. So we'll speak at them plenty throughout the show. Yeah,
James Fisher-Harris returns as well, just another little bonus for the Penrith Panthers. For the Warriors, Chanel Harris-Tavita comes in and very strange. Jack Murchie's out, but yesterday they named their team list, and then within an hour, Ewan Aitken was ruled out as well. I don't think there'll be many Ewan Aitken owners, but that'll be another little kick in the dick if he's playing in the back row. The late game, Storm Roosters, 7:55. Felice Kafusi back in for the Melbourne Storm. Nelson Asafa-Solomona, he has been every halfback's fucking nightmare for the last couple of weeks, floating out onto that right edge. Can you see it happening again, or do you think he sort of stays in the middle now?
I think he will primarily play in the middle, but with the success of him on the edge the last 2 weeks, I do think that Bellamy will try and get him out there at times. I don't exactly know how that'll work out with Bromwich and Kafusi, who hold the edges really well there, but I think you'd be mad not to get him out there for the occasional attacking set, wouldn't you? Even if one of those two does shift into the middle, probably maybe Kafusi, but Supercoach-wise, 70 minutes last week for 113 points, 64 minutes the week before for 68, having spent time on the edge. With those edge back roles gone next year, if he does turn into an edge player, and you know, it's pretty speculative at this point, he could be anything. And if Kafusi wasn't back, he'd be a serious buy this week, but I think now that he is, he probably goes back to sort of 50-odd minutes.
Yeah, surely at some point they're just going to put him opposite Sam Walker, aren't they?
Oh,
and just say, cause
Lord.
havoc.
Yeah, I think that's the money.
Unfortunately for Sam, he's too tough for his own fucking good too. He will put his body in front, so we wish him all the very best. My captain this week, very nice.
Yeah.
Mate, I was at the SCG,
You're
right?
welcome, mate.
And I was, yeah, fuck you. I was at the SCG for a buck, so we had a box, so we were up really high. My eyesight isn't great, but I was sitting there watching that game, obviously just zoning Sam Walker. I was so far away, I could not tell the difference between Walker and Keary in any way, shape or form. So I was just waiting. I was watching the Supercoach updates and Keary just going tick, 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 tick. 12 goals though for Sam Walker. Saved my sorry ass just quietly.
Oh, and no, what an incredible game of Supercoach. Like, there'd have been people out there who would have sat Angus Crichton for his 160. There would have been people who, sorry, been a bit dusty during the week, so I'm going to be coughing through this entire show. No. Joey Manu, people just skip a Joey Manu, rightly so. Everyone thinking that, you know, they'd get away with it a little bit. Maybe Teddy goes off with 20 to go, Manu shifts to fullback. He'd score about 200 in that time. Manu, what did he get, 50 odd?
Yep.
Mate, I don't give you much credit for good reason very often, but the Joseph Suoliti call from last week about him not being a buy because you were concerned about roaming Joey and not having his regular centre there, spot on. And people were saying, who could have envisioned Suoliti getting that? What did he finish on, 30-odd points or something?
Yeah, it was sub 40.
Yeah, and so who could have envisioned that? And I said, well, the old Oracle guru called
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. You get some right, mate.
I get the occasional one right. When I get them right, I'll let you know. Don't worry about that. Kafusi and Nass in the middle. For the Roosters, some big ins here. Takiaho and Lindsay Collins return off the bench. This might now, considering the form of Rhea Hargraves and Lodge, chucking these two back in, this might be the best middle rotation in rugby league when you throw Victor Radley in as well. So the Roosters, they're becoming very scary. Momorowski, he returns at centre as well. Let's move to the Super Saturday games. 3 p.m, the Canberra Raiders taking on the Manly Seagulls. The Canberra Raiders with their season on the line. Nothing really doing with team list there, mate. Is there anything you want to touch on with Canberra?
Nothing really there, mate. Joey Tapine, obviously there was that issue around the rib cartilage last week, but got through the game okay, so happy days for his owners.
For the Manly Seagulls, just one to keep an eye on, especially if you're a draft player in your grand final this week, Raymond Tuamalo Vega. Now, I believe he was the fellow that played in the trials at the start of the year on the Sting, scored a couple of cracking tries. I don't mind him if you're in a draft comp and you're looking for a guy to put on your bench as an AE. He could be a good little gamble.
Old RTV. Mate, the resolute defence of the men from the nation's capital, not a chance. Look, if they dish up the crap they did against the Knights on the weekend, potentially, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, it's hard to get a read on the Raiders. You just feel like they're going to win this, but they're going to win this ugly, as per. Nothing else really doing over there at the Manly Seagulls. 5:30, we've got the Cronulla Sharks taking on the Canterbury Bulldogs. Talakai comes back in, Wilton on the bench as well. If you have been holding Talakai, I imagine it's been a frustrating last month or so, but it could all pay dividends this weekend.
Yeah, that's it. It was a shame to miss the matchup for the Sharkies last week against a softened Manly outfit and the week prior, but I've been saying for a long time, and I'm not an owner, I did sell, but there's a big, not necessarily big ton, there's a ton in Talakai to repay the faith of owners. I feel it, and it could very well be this week. If not this week, they've got a soft game, might be the Knights or someone next week, so...
Yeah, it's a pretty good run home for the Sharkies. For the Canterbury Bulldogs, nothing major. TPJ out of this one, Thompson into the 13. If you're still riding the Maxi King train, that's a little win for you there. I think you had a line break at the back end of the game last week to get him up to about 60 odds, so we will take that. Could have set up a try there as well, which would have put him into the 70 sort of realms, which would have been unreal.
Shout out to...
Might have put you into 931, would have been great.
I didn't play the King Man, but... Shout out to Andrew Fafita, who I've owned since round one. He's made me money 23 rounds too late, but 260s in his last 3 games, 65 in 32 minutes on the weekend. So, if players drop out all over the place next week, I'll put Fifi into my side, lock him in a skipper for a 120-odd, peaking at the right time of season. Speaking
of, it's his last game for the Cronulla Sharks at Shark Park this weekend. So if you are a Sharkies fan, I'm sure you'll already be getting out there. Make sure you go out and support Fafita. Fuck, he's been a good player for that club, hasn't he?
He has, and I've loved what he's done this year as a completely new role that he's never seen before. In a short stint, X-Factor bench role, he's come on and he brings so much energy when he gets onto the field. He's got that, still got his offload. That hasn't gone anywhere. So he's generating so much second phase for them. And going into the finals, he's a bloke you'd love to have on your bench. Yeah, for sure. I'd still argue he holds the biggest moment in Cronulla Sharks history. By far and away. So, been a great player for a very long time, Andrew Fafita. Saturday, 7:35, we've got the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the North Queensland Cowboys. I'd probably say the Storm Roosters game of the week. I'd say this one probably the second best. Really looking forward to this one. For the Bunnies, Isaac Thompson comes back in and... Matty, he's finally back. Tom Burgess, resurrected from the dead. Good to see, considering how well you've been going without him, to add... I would argue your best front rower this year as a whole, going to be huge. Yeah, I think, apologies for my voice as well, I think me and Timmy have the same thing. I think this is probably the best team South have rolled out this year. Yeah. I would maybe consider Jed Cartwright on the bench instead of Nicarima, but that's just splitting hairs. Everything else I'm very happy with. It's such a big, important game as well. For South, no doubt Timmy will be riding the Cowboys home. Oh, yeah. It's very happy Tom Burgess is back. I can't believe he missed, 3 weeks with a groin injury. And there was just nothing said about it. Yeah. If you win this game, what's the highest you can go? Like, can you push for third to finish this year? Or I don't think so. I'm just looking now. It's more like, you got to remember, Canberra only 1 win behind South, and there's two games to go. So I'm definitely just got my eye on the top 8 right now. Not really concerned about the top 4. Fourth place is 2 wins ahead, so I don't think it's realistic. Yeah, for the North Queensland Cowboys, no Tommy Dearden. Poor old Tommy Dearden, good God, ruptured nut. Miss me with that. The old busted nut. Fuck, couldn't think of anything worse.
And it does cause a bit of a domino effect in this side. Drinkwater into 6. Hamiso gets an opportunity at 1. We've got questions about both of these guys a little bit later, so we'll save that till then. Leilua still named in the second row with Gilbert on the bench. Fuck, Leilua is an interesting one. If their run was a little bit easier, I think I'd be all over him.
I think so, and we know Toddy Payton doesn't mind a game of Ducks and Drakes with his starting side, so we'll see if it remains that way come game day, but I'd say there's every chance he does go to the bench with Gilbert starting, but who knows. I quite like Leilua coming in and playing that Helam Lukey X-Factor bench role where he comes on and plays basically 50 straight against a tiring pack. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, if he was locked into a big minute role, such an option, isn't he?
Yeah. Let's move to Sunday afternoon with two of the greatest games of football you will see. Kicking off 2 p.m, the Tigers and the Dragons. Tigers, injuries, suspensions. This team's just fucked. I can't look at them Supercoach-wise. I could tell you all the changes that have happened, but none of them are relevant, right? You couldn't even consider them. Adam Dewey's the only one you could possibly look at, and that's if you already own him. If not,
yeah, well, that's it. It's if you ever need to advocate or convince someone of the powers of Supercoach, it'll be this Sunday when people are sitting there, non-fans of these 4 sides, sitting there watching the games, and it'll be David Fafita owners, Adam Dewey owners, Ben Hunt owners, because they're tough ones to get up for at this end of the season.
Yeah. For sure. And there are actually a number of guys in these 2 games we're going to talk about today. Yeah. So we'll get to them soon. For the Dragons, disappointing Jack Bird named at centre. If he was at 13, I seriously would have considered him this week. He has just been everywhere. Still not a bad option at centre, taking on the Tigers, but I would have rathered him at 13.
I think the edge is the spot you want to be after last week. I would have loved him at 11 or 12 with 6 tries between the back rows last week. But the way the Tigers were last week, granted they were playing the Roosters as opposed to the Dragons, but just doing all the damage to the middle, you wonder if these outside backs are going to be able to touch the ball.
That's why I would have rathered him at 13. But Bud Sullivan also comes in the 9. Andrew McCulloch out for this game. 4:05, we've got the Titans up against the Newcastle Knights. Titans, not many changes here. There is a debutant coming off the bench, young Haas, who I've been told should have been playing first grade way before now. So one to keep an eye on with a last name like that. Could be interesting. We know.
Yeah, it was the Titans early in the season when they announced the big signing of Haas and just couldn't have been any more vague about it. I think it was when all the ongoing stuff was going on with Payne Haas at the Broncos. Haas signs with Titans. It was like, yeah, well played.
Yeah. Love your work.
I mean, it wrote itself, but...
Yeah. For the Knights, nothing overly relevant here. Bradman Best out injured. He wasn't in the side last week, though. Yeah, nothing to overly touch on that side, but we will get to more players from those games a little bit later. All right, let's move to the Blue Wealth Hot Property Player of the Week prediction. Mate, I think last week we both got about 110 on the nose, Sammy Walker and James Tedesco. To make it interesting this week, we have taken Nico Hines out of contention. He would be the obvious pick. My pick, Fafita. Flat track for Feeder up against the Newcastle Knights. I think he goes on an absolute tear there. I'm going to back him in for 2 meat pies and 120-plus score. Timmy, who you got?
Like it, mate, and I hope you're right as a Fafita owner. Benny Hunt versus the Tigers.
Ooh.
Now, it's one of them games where the Tigers coming off that humiliating game last year, and I would generally say they have to get up for. They'll be okay. Could be a bit of a tricky one. But they've lost more players. Their side's just decimated. They've got something like 14 of their top 30 available this week. So Benny Hunt could go on a tear.
I'm thinking at the moment I'm going to bring Ben Hunt in this weekend. So I'm going to have both of them. So hopefully we're right. Let us know in the comments who your Blue Wealth Hot Property player for round 24 will be. If you're on social media, YouTube, wherever you are, let us know who your picks are. Round 24, fuck, that has come quickly.
Oh, hasn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's exciting time of the year. It's even more exciting because I can sit back and just enjoy it. And, you're still sitting there nicely up top ranked and in the hunt for potentially a bit of money with a few big weeks. But I just sort of put the feet up and not too much is going to change either way. So, yeah, all those people that are in their head-to-head grand finals this week that are sort of around that top 100, top 200 in the hunt for a bit of prize money. It's an exciting couple of weeks.
Very exciting couple of weeks. It's going to be unreal. Now, we normally do our hot topics at this point. We're going to save them for the very end because we might cover a few of them in our questions. So we'll get stuck into your questions. Now, the first one comes from Adrian Messer. It says, is Fafita a must-have? I don't know if I'd put him in must-have category, but I think I'd just have him a tier below. I think it'll hurt you if you don't have him this week, is my opinion. Where do you sit?
Yeah, definitely not a must-have. Just the way the Titans utilise him, or their inability to utilise him, I should say, scares me off him a little bit. I think he's a decent trading option, a bloke I'd love to own. Oh, sorry, I do own, but just particularly I think the Titans can win this pretty comfortably. I can't believe I'm saying that about the Titans this season, but their attack's starting to click on what we've seen. AJ Brimson in the halves has been really good. So I think there's points in them. I can see them just stripping the Knights and getting really easy crossover tries out wide with Fafita just running that decoy. Even the 2 tries he scored in recent weeks, they've pretty well just been the classic case of giving the ball and he finds someone and runs over the top of him as opposed to them getting the best out of him. So there is the risk that happens where he sits back and they're winning convincingly. So, great option, but not a must-have.
My boy can sniff out a flat track.
I'm
telling you. Get around him. All right, next one comes from Taylor Mark. A really interesting one here. Do we sit Drinky? Been a very popular pick for a lot of people, myself included, over the last few weeks. At 5'8", is a little bit of a worry. We'll probably get more touches of the footy, you could argue, but he'll obviously lose a fair whack of base stats, I think, on his kick returns, where he does tend to break a tackle or two on most runs. I'm nervous about him at 5'8". It's obviously not a great matchup either. If he was playing one of the bottom 8 teams, I wouldn't be that worried. But against South Sydney, who, granted, they don't have the best defensive structures in the world, but yeah, I'm just not as keen on it. Obviously at 5'8", you're one man in, you're getting less of your tip-on sort of tries that he gets a lot of. I'm nervous about him. I don't know if I'd sit him, but I'm nervous about him. Where do you sit?
Yeah, you've summed up pretty well, mate. And you summed up well at the end there with the just not getting those tip-ons. And we see so much of Supercoach these days, fullbacks being so dominant scorers because of the way attacking structures are, and it's sweeping out the back. And Latrell, who finds his stats in a million different ways, but we spoke about him benefiting out the back of Cody and Cam Murray and the work they do on the inside. Well, Drinky, I think, is going to be the bloke doing the work on the inside now. So you'll see Hammer sweeping out the back, him potentially picking up a lot of them. Sit v start, I think Drinky is probably... He's certainly a luxury sit, but I don't mind it in this game. You also mentioned the Bunnies' defence isn't necessarily that good. So while they're winning games and playing well, they're not necessarily doing it off the back of their defence, the Parramatta game being the exception. I don't mind it as a sit this week. And as a non-owner, I'm very glad he's in the halves. But it's one of the toughest sit v starts this week.
Yeah, for sure. Next one comes from Brenton Mills. Says Talakai Mulatalo going to finally pay off. I know you've been very high on this combination all season. I've had Mulatalo since you got him, I think. I think we got him around the Origin period. Has been a little bit disappointing. Let's be honest here. I thought he would have got more bigger scores. Hopefully this is the week where it all comes off. Are you confident it's going to or not?
Yeah, more than a little disappointing. I think the first sort of month or 5 weeks that he got him in, he scored really well. It was looking terrific, and then he just hit the skid since. A lot of that, said was off the back of Matty Moylan missing 2 or 3 weeks. They didn't help him on that edge, but Moyes was back last week. They put points on Manly and he still didn't score well and get amongst it. I do think it'll pay off. That being said, the Doggies are another hard one to assess. We know they can get up for games. It is the back end of the season. They're not really playing for anything. A lot of these lower ranked sides play for pride at this time of year. I think the Dogs have earned the respect of their fans, what they've done in the last sort of 8 to 10 weeks. They could, if they do get up for it, it could be a little bit of a, not the game to target that we think it is. But look, all signs point to the Sharks putting a few on here. They're playing for a home semi-final in week 1 if they can leapfrog the Cowboys. So I think Talakai and Mulatalo go very well this week.
Playing for a home semi-final, this game's at Shark Park. Fafita's last game at Shark Park. I can't see a world where the Sharks fire a blank here.
Surely not.
It's going to be tough for Canterbury. And as you said, when you're playing for nothing, I couldn't think of anything anywhere worse to go than Shark Park, I don't think. Tough gig, maybe Penrith. Our next one comes from Jet Hatton. Do I play Jack Bird? Nice pod last week. As I said, I would have rathered him at 13. You've made a good point about centre, though, and I understand that a lot of people would be disappointed about him being moved to centre, but if you've got Jack Bird, you fucking 100% play him this week against the Tigers. That is a no question. As I'm sitting here, I was thinking I'd bring in Ben Hunt. I'm actually wondering if I maybe bring in both of them and target this game.
Yeah, it could pay off big time. With their super pod stats. They'd be so low owning those boys. So, yeah, it could be one to pull the trigger on. And the Drags, they've got a nice matchup next week too. It might be the Raids.
Game.
No, Raids got the Tigers in round 25. Sorry, they just played them. Where have we got here? Benny Hunt. So the Drags have got the Broncos.
Where is it? Can you see if it's home or away?
Where are we for this one?
Because, I mean, if the Broncos do fall into a heat, which they potentially could.
Jubilee Stadium, Cogra.
Fuck. I might pull the double barrel.
So tempting.
Right there. Yeah. And then just find a way to get through the last
absolutely
week.
play Jack Bird this week.
Yeah, no questions asked there. Have to play Jack Bird this week. All right, next one comes from Kate C. Best CTW replacement based on matchup this week. Now, our hot topic at the end, we are going to talk about a couple of big pod plays for this week and solely this week, and a couple of guys that are must-haves. But if I said to you just off the top of the head, who would it be? I imagine Jack Bird would have to be there and thereabouts, but who would be the CTW that you'd be looking at this week to bring in?
I think I'd be targeting Penrith and the Warriors. There are some good matchups. The Bulldogs huge outsiders against the Sharks. We know the Dogs can get up for it. Like the Tigers game for the Dragons looks good, but it's still the Dragons. But Penrith versus the Warriors. Warriors be getting very weary after the amount of time they've spent over here. Penrith get Luai back, JFH back. I think that's fun to target. We'll get to it a bit more shortly, but it's almost a flip of the coin. Your Crichtons, your Taylor Mays, your Isaac Tungos, Dylan Edwards. You could go any of these guys, and a few of them are going to score big. A few of them the attacking stats will probably avoid, but just any of those blokes, I reckon.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as this game doesn't mean much for Penrith, I think it'll be a big day out there. It'll be their last home game before finals. They get the JJ Gilton and Shield at the end here.
Ooh,
so they're going to be up for this one, Penrith. So, yeah, I like that one. Stephen Crichton's probably the one that comes to mind for me. Goal kicking there. It could be similar to Sam Walker last week, and you'd have to think Critter finds a way to pick up a try or two.
Possibly my only concern is Luai back. Does the left edge get a stack of ball? But in saying that, it is his first game back from injury. Maybe does not take a backseat, but maybe does give a sort of 50-50 even share with Sean O'Sullivan there. So we'll see.
I just think even if the left side does get a heap of ball, every time they don't score there, it'll be a swing back to the right.
Yeah,
and Critter will just be on. So, yeah, there's a lot of options there in the CTWs. Heap to choose from this week. It's actually a good week to be in this position, I think, trying to find someone. It's just a matter of picking the right one. Jakey B, should random Hamiso owners play him? Now, I would say that the vast majority of these people will probably listen to you during the season, picking up Hamiso around the round 13 sort of period. If you've held on to him this long, do you play him this week? Once again, wish it was a better matchup. Hamiso can score you 80. He can also score you 8. And that's my biggest concern. You're probably more in touch with Hamiso. What do you think?
Oh, it would have been wonderful for the Warriors matchup last week. He could have scored anything in that one. I wouldn't. I think you should probably have good enough depth in your CT dub at this stage to go against him in a tough game with the Bunnies. It'd be worrying, but it'd be fun to own him and play him this week. But I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it either. I don't have the balls for
I don't actually like what they've done there with Drinkwater to 5'8", this close to finals.
I didn't expect it. I didn't.
Does it definitely stay that way? Does Ben Hampton come into the halves and Drinky back to 4? I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, particularly defensively. I was going to say he's not the strongest defender in the NRL. Drinky, he's possibly the worst defender in the NRL. So doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, I mean, on the question, I'd be reluctant to play him.
Yeah, I was surprised that they did go down this avenue, like especially when you look at Dearden, who's 2 to 4 weeks. In 3 weeks, they've got a home final. Well, you'd assume they got a home final. Like, I was shocked that. Yeah, I'm saying I'm pretty confident that he does play week 1 of finals. Yeah. Surely you just make it work, don't you?
They then, and again, not saying they'll do the switcheroo come game day, but if they do, that game's the third last one of the round, with the Sunday games not having many relevant Supercoach players in them, so you could leave yourself short if they do switch things up. But just speculating there. So,
all right, our next one comes from Justin Crawford. We've sort of already touched on it, but Critter as a pod play versus the Warriors with the goal kicking. I wouldn't hold this against anyone if they did go through with it. I think it quite possibly could pay off. Critter, as much as I was just high on him before, there are games where he can score a try and score 40. But you'd like to think he throws over 7+ goals here, wouldn't you?
That's it. If he knocks out 7 or 8 goals, picks up a double, there could be a 130, 140 in there. Do you see a world at all where the Warriors sharp for this and it's a 26-12 win to the Panthers?
No, not a hope in hell.
Either.
I wouldn't be surprised if after 20 minutes it's kind of close and then they still win by 40 or 50.
Yeah, so I think Critter's a great play this week.
Yeah, I think as well, obviously, the New Zealand Warriors, they've lost both of their edge defenders as well. That's fucking massive when you're coming up against this side and how they attack. It's going to be tough. Next one comes from Sam_Sturges. Says, love the content, boys. Would you go Brown or Brimson? Two guys that I know you're pretty high on both of them at the moment. I think Dylan Brown is in career best form at the moment. What he's doing is fucking incredible. So good to watch. Up against the Broncos. Once again, if the Broncos have shit the bed, Brown could quite easily go 130 here, I reckon.
I'd go against Brown. I just think they've got Melbourne next week. Brisbane, they've been horrible the last few weeks, but they've shown enough this year that there's a good football side in there. They're playing for a top 8 spot. They're at home. I really do think Brisbane get up for this one, and I think it will be a lot tighter than people are expecting that it may be. I know he scored his big 130 with Mitchie Moses back last week, but what if they have success down Mitchie Moses' side and a lot of the ball goes to the right? They are dominant on their left edge attack this season, so I probably don't think that will happen or not a concern. But when you look at Brimson with his jaw over the next 2 weeks, I think that's the one to face. So they've got the next round. They don't play on Sunday afternoon. That's what's throwing me because that's the first time in a while. The Warriors at Mount Smart Stadium, but the Warriors in that one. The Knights this week. I think Brimson's the play. Since he's moved back to 5'8", he's been awesome. Averaging 87 in that time in the past 3 weeks. Softer draw. It's comfortably Brimo for me.
Yeah, I hate the way that you just palmed off at Mount Smart Stadium. That worries me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If it was on the Gold Coast, look out. But still. I don't know.
I'll say Dill Brown goes 90 plus this week.
So you've got Dill Brown in that of those two?
I would have Dill Brown, yes.
Coming up against Melbourne next week. Brisbane at Suncorp this week.
Mate, does Melbourne worry Parramatta?
Yeah.
Honestly, let's be fucking clear. I don't think they can win a comp. I don't think they're going to be... The whips won't be cracking come the end of the season, but I don't think that worries them. Yeah. I really don't.
Brisbane will put 50 on the Eels this week, then the Eels will go and put 50 on the Storm.
And the thing about Brimson with me, and if you are an owner, I'm sure you would have noticed it. I brought him in at the end of last year, and I always watch him closely because I love Brimo. He is always so close to scoring on every single play. He is so close to points every single time, and he just misses by a bee's dick constantly. I find him to be one of the more frustrating players to watch because he puts himself everywhere. But this Titans team, they just can't fucking turn anything around. So I would be going Dylan Brown. I also think the combination he's got with Sean Lane at the moment is just on another fucking planet. So I would go Dylan Brown slightly. Your team, Brimson?
Yep.
Like it. All right. Benny Cook, 6195, says Val to To'o. Geez, I think Val's been so good all this year. I'd be hesitant to probably trade him. I know that it isn't the two greatest matchups over the next 2 weeks, and To'o's obviously got a great one this week. He then plays the Cowboys the week after up there. I'm not convinced To'o plays the next 2 weeks. Do you think there's a chance that they could have some restings in the last week or not?
Certainly a chance. The only thing is that Ivan Cleary's been reluctant to sit players and rest players in the last couple of rounds of the season in the last few years. There's been a few times in round 24, 25 where they've had soft matchups, they've had minor premierships sewn up or their larger position can't move and you're like, surely he rests players and he doesn't do it. So, look, based on that, I would say probably not. The other thing is they have had disruptions to their side injury-wise throughout the season. To'o's missed games this season, so I think he'd probably want to get them playing as many games. I mean, it sounds a little bit silly to say because these guys have played together for so long, but I think he'll want to continue that momentum going into the finals. They've got Luai back now, JFH back, so he could get a rest, but I don't think so. Val Holmes, I don't mind him as a sit this week if you're in a position to do so. No, Tommy did, and now he's replaced by Drinky, who's a fantastic ball player on that edge, but it doesn't help when you take your half out of that edge, so not ideal. I think it's a great anti-pod play to trade him with the Penrith game next week for the Cowboys and a tough Bunnies game this week, if you're chasing those big ranks or you're sitting like 50th overall and you're going, I need to go against the grain here and do something different, and maybe trading / sitting Val is that play. But for the average super coach with one trade left or however you're sitting, it's, you're in a good position if you're trading Val Holmes.
Brian To'o last 4 weeks, 43, 36, 47, 34. Obviously plays the New Zealand Warriors this week, which is a great matchup, but I do worry, the only way that he gets the ball in attacking position has to be through the hands of Stephen Crichton. That is always a worry. Dylan Edwards isn't the sort of guy to come down that edge and skin a 3-on-2 and cut out and hit To'o. You've also now, I would assume, have Sean O'Sullivan on that edge. I think Brian To'o goes sub 50 this week. I think it'll be similar to Suaalii. Yeah. I think he'll base that well, but I just don't know if he'll get the attacking opportunities. Can you see a world where he scores 2 or more tries, realistically?
Yeah, I can, because if they put 50 or 60 on the Warriors, it's not hard to do. But I do think it all goes down the left.
It all goes down the left, and when it goes down the right, Sean O'Sullivan's a run-first dude. Stephen Crichton's a run-first dude.
Martin's definitely a run-first dude.
So I don't... Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to play Brian To'o this week. I've got him. I'm not going to play him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brave.
I thought you'd be a little bit more on board with me. That's interesting.
Oh, I just think there's a lot of difficult matchups this week, between your Storms and Roosters. A lot of popular Supercoach players in that. Your Bunnies and Cowboys, some really tough ones there. So I just thought Brian To'o against the Warriors. Well, all your logic is fine, but I'm 100%.
I think it sounds better than what it is. And I also think with Val Holmes, he'll be playing left centre. He'll be going up against Matty, your right edge. That's like Ilias, Campbell-Graham. Yeah?
And Thompson, yeah.
I don't mind Val Holmes there. I really don't. I will play Val Holmes over Brian To'o this week.
I'll tell you where To'o has been agonisingly close to scoring multiple tries in recent weeks despite the low scores. And it's off scrum plays that Penrith do so well, and they just strip them, To'o in the corner. So that's where I can see maybe jagging a try and a line break and boosting his 50 to an 80-odd, if nothing else. So
who's going to get the ball off scrums now? It's got to be Luai.
As in it'll go left to Luai. Yeah,
surely.
Yeah. Maybe they just do that every time.
Yeah, that's my fear. That's my worry there.
We'll see.
All right, that's a good one. I like that.
So
Best of luck, Ben. Fuck knows.
Yeah. How long till you change your tune and play To'o off the back of my
I will not be playing. I might sell him this week to take a fucking stand, all right? Our next one comes from T. Gibbons. Play or sit Nanai. Fuck. I'll tell you what, if you've got him, I kind of think maybe you play him. I don't like the matchup. But I mean, not many people have him. If you're one of the people that does have him, you brought him because he can do fucking anything on any given weekend. Why not?
I don't think it really matters who Nanai plays. He's relying on attacking stats we can pull out of his ass against Penrith, against the Storm, against the Blues, whoever it might be. He's got it in him. So I think he's one of them ones that, a bit like Kickout, where you just almost ride the highs and the lows. There'll be the tons and there'll be the 40s, and it balances out. So I'd be playing him.
I think as well with Tommy Dearden out, I thought Chad's game last week was fucking extraordinary.
A lot of ball for the right edge.
Yeah, and some of the balls that he was throwing to both edge back rowers were incredible. So I don't mind playing Nanai this week. I don't have him myself, but I don't mind it. Next one comes from Tim Guttridge. Says, Hughes to Hunt. You had Benny Hunt as your Blue Wealth hot property player this week. I think I'm going to bring him in. I was looking at Hughesy. The next 2 weeks aren't great for him. I don't mind the Hughes to Hunt play personally. I've got my halves at the moment are Sam Walker and Jerome Hughes. I'm kind of thinking I might go Walker to Hunt. I think I'm less likely to use Walker, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that one. If I was to trade one of them to Ben Hunt, which one would you be moving on?
Tough, isn't it? I would go Walker just because I think Hughesy is more fixture-proof. I think you mentioned it a few weeks ago, but he doesn't have the big ceiling against the harder sides, whereas like you have your Latrells, your Cam Munsters, who I think can get their big scores no matter who they're playing. But Hughes, he bases well. He's just involved in everything, particularly, I mean, I think we assume Munster goes back to fullback again in this one, so he'll be running the show in the halves more so than normal. I think of Hughes and Walker, because Sammy Walker, obviously, he's got 2 tough games coming up as well. Yep. Melbourne this week, Bunnies next week at the opening of the new stadium. There'll be plenty on the line in that game. I think Hughes to Hunt, whilst a bit of a luxury, I think him to Benny Hunt with his draw coming up, I like it.
Yeah. All right. Jimbo, by Lomax. He's a guy that we're going to talk about in our Hot Topics in just a couple of moments. But by Lomax, obviously a very good matchup with the West Tigers. Once again, feels like the sort of game Lomax would enjoy. He'll be goal kicking. I don't know if I can trust him personally, but I can. If you do, I would never push back on it. What do you reckon?
I like it, particularly as a head-to-head grand final play this week. I think he's a fantastic. Like everyone's saying, Jack Bird, looking at Ben Hunt and these sorts of players, well, the most proven Supercoach player in recent years of that lot is Zach Lomax. So I think Lomax is a good play. Just on Jerome Hughes, sit or start this week?
Sit for me because I'm going to play Hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I've got to decide if I'm going to go with Drinky or Hughes. I'm leaning towards Drinky at the moment.
Yeah. Nice.
I could flip like a fucking fish about 7 times this week on that, though. Unless I make a double barrel trade in which I would play neither of them.
You'll flip to Toto.
I can guarantee I won't be flipping to Toto. Mate, you said the same thing to me about Suoli last week. Cute little 30 for you all. All right.
I didn't push back on you on that. I liked it.
Oh, off camera. You carried on like a dick. Hail Mary plays to win the grand final. This one comes from Kirk Burton. And this sort of rolls into a hot topic we're going to talk about to finish off the show. We're going to start with 2 must-haves that you've identified for this weekend. If you're trying to win this weekend, 2 absolute must-haves. Who have you got?
Nico Hines is just set and forget. He's very highly owned, but there'll be a handful out there who don't own him. And that matchup with the Dogs, you've spoken about him plenty, but I think you have to have him in your team. And the next one's probably a little bit controversial because he hasn't been in terrific form, but it is again targeting that Panthers matchup. Taylor May, 5-round average of 45, really has hit the skids like a lot of their backline players since Cleary and Luai have been out, but I think we've spoken all about that left edge. Luai back in there, and we mentioned on the right how there's Euro Sullivan, who's been on the left, who tends to, he's a bit of glue hands. He's a ball-running halfback. He goes to the right. Luai, who loves to throw it wide and draw in defenders and do all the hard yards on the inside for his blokes at the back. Kickout also loves to ball play out there. I think Taylor May could be on the end of plenty of points this week, and I'm very excited to own him because plenty have sold him off in over the past month or so, and it's been very much their benefit. Must trade. Good luck to those people, but I'm thinking this is the week where Taylor May bounces back, and I think he could potentially be a buy this week.
Yeah. Oh, I did sell him a few weeks ago. He's another one that I'm considering for sure, just for this week. All right. Hail Mary players, answering Kirk's question now. Now, a number of them we have sort of spoken about. Stephen Crichton's one that you could go down that avenue. Lomax. Sifa Talakai. If you're not an owner, Sifa. Do we have the balls to be able to grab it? It is a good 2-week matchup coming his way. I think it could pay dividends for you. Where do you sit?
Yeah, I don't mind Sifa. Obviously, coming back from injury is always a bit of concern, but at the same time, they're in a pretty luxurious position in the top 4, locked into the Sharkies, so I don't think they'd be rushing him back if they didn't need to. So I think he looks a decent mate. And we're also, keep in mind with a lot of these players we're considering, look at your situation. We're speaking a lot about players for this week in head-to-head grand finals, but if you're overall focused, it's obviously a 2-week play as well. So Sifa and the Sharkies have a really nice 2 weeks coming up, whereas a lot of players you've mentioned might have a good game this week, but then round 25 have a tough one. So Sifa, I don't mind him, yeah.
Another one that I'm going to throw up, and we've spoken Jack Bird, Ben Hunt, Jack Bird, Ben Hunt, Zach Lomax, all these Dragons. Mate, Cody Ramsey. It doesn't feel right to me, but every time he scores a try, he goes 70 or 80. Against this West Tigers side, some of the positions that they put him in and just how hard he goes, I wouldn't be shocked to see him cross for 2 or 3 tries here. It's a huge, bold play. But, mate, if you're looking for a super pod this week to try and win a game and the West Tigers play like they did last week, I wouldn't be surprised if Cody Ramsey goes big here.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. There's not a chance I would do it.
Yeah. I don't have the balls to do it.
My final trade of the season, bringing Cody Ramsey into my side, not a chance. But this week alone, we've touched on the Brisbane matchup next week, which is, they'll be playing for a top 8 spot likely. I'm not as convinced, but yeah, he could go ballistic in this one. So, yeah.
I think it's an interesting one to consider. I wouldn't have the balls to do it either, but one to consider. Bird, Ramsey, your boy Brimson. I think he's in for a big one as well. And, mate, if you don't own Dave Fafita, I personally think that I would throw him on this list as well. With those 2 games to finish the season, I think he could go huge. Is there anyone else you want to throw on your Hail Mary list?
Yeah, I think we spoke about probably the 2 at top mine to be Brimson and Benny Hunt, but Dylan Edwards is the one who we've spoken about all these Panthers players, and the bloke will be swinging both sides and in everything for them is Edwards. 3-round average of 73. He's been good without his regular halves there, but we talk about how good Penrith are with their scrum plays, and they swing out the back, and it's an easy dive over try for the winger. But Dylan Edwards, I think he'll be the bloke throwing that ball, swinging most of the time, getting the try assist. So I think Dylan Edwards is a huge play. And then even looking forward to round 25, the Cowboys, who have not been what they probably have been, what we're expecting earlier on, are they on the down? Time will tell, but that matchup all of a sudden doesn't look too terrifying. Certainly not defensively what they have been earlier in the season. But, yeah, I think Dylan Edwards is a good one.
I think Lockie Miller as well is another one to throw in. Only available at halfback, playing fullback for the Sharkies the next 2 weeks. They take on the Canterbury Bulldogs and the Newcastle Knights. I personally think the Sharkies are about to go on a bit of a run, so I don't mind him as well, what he scored. 79 and 69 last 2 weeks. He only scored 1 try in that. Last week he played fullback. 69 points there, but I personally think that they could score a stack of points here, and he's breaking tackles left, right and centre at the moment, Lockie. So
super pod.
He's another one to really consider, especially at halfback too, when everyone's like, a lot of the halfbacks outside of your Ben Hunt have sort of got tougher matchups. Yeah. So he's one to seriously consider, I think. Now, captains. If your captain isn't named Nico Hines, I think you got rocks in your head this week. But if you were going to go with a pod captain, if you had to win a head-to-head, who else are you looking at?
I have never been one to skip a wingers. I don't have it in me, just because of how low they can go. But Taylor May, like I touched on it, I just think he could cross for 3 tries in this one, possibly more. Sorry to the poor old Warriors fans out there, but yeah, I think Taylor May's a decent one this weekend. He'll be my vice captain at this stage. Who have you got?
Yeah, I think a Penrith outside back as a VC is probably your winning ticket there into a Nico Hines as skipper will be the way that I will run. It's tough those first few games. I'll tell you what, wouldn't it be great if the Canberra Raiders just had one outside back that was fucking Supercoach relevant for the next 2 weeks? They're 2 matchups that I think the Raiders will do very well in. Your 2 halves are underachievers as far as Supercoach go, as is your entire fucking backline. It's a nightmare. I mean, I was almost looking at the best option might be X, but I can't. Yeah. I couldn't do that.
X, like that.
X-Man.
Is that a Guru special?
That's a Guru special.
Yeah, they so Supercoach irrelevant, aren't they? They're like, aside from Tapney, who's even him, you're like talking about him each week. No matter who is fixture proof, you get through his work rate, got some attack in him. It's like, what do you say about him? Adam Elliott to a lesser degree. Gee, they're Supercoach irrelevant. Maybe Geordie Rapana 2017 form, if he can pick that up the last 2 weeks. He's got some big ones in him, but yeah.
You see the screen?
Yeah, you
Brian fucking Toto collecting dust on the pine because he's going to score 40 this week, okay?
Yeah.
That's my prediction
Can't
for
wait
you.
to clip this up next week when he's... Actually, I'm not going to say that because he could go low, but I think you're mad sitting him.
No, he'll go low. Thank me later, guys. Anything else, mate, to touch on before we hit the frog?
All good, mate.
All good. Hopefully you stay in the top 1,000 this week.
Yeah, well, if you don't play Toto, I could catch you.
Oh, fucking please. Thanks for joining us once again, guys. Brought to you by Blue Wealth Property. They make investing in property easy for you. If you'd like to reach out to Tony and the team, find them on socials. You went to one of their nights on last Tuesday, yeah?
Blue Wealth Property night, linked up with Paddy and George from Mortgage Choice there.
Some of the greats.
Yeah, they put on a show together, and it was a lot of the playbook faithful came out and had a listen to that. Hopefully a few of the beers and break-evens faithful too. It was a great night. Absolute geniuses, and if I had more money in my bank like you do, Guru, I'd probably be investing in property, but you probably should have been there, actually.
I probably should have been, yeah. Can't win them all. Tony, we're coming for you over the next few weeks. We're going to have you back on. I need someone to bully him into submission again. Brought to you again by Bloke in a Bar. Father's Day just around the corner. Kempy still got his Father's Day T-shirts for sale there, so make sure you get stuck into those and grab a case this weekend and enjoy yourself. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.